STA 2322 Data Analysis using Statistical Packages. Lesson 2, Importing data from other files and naming variables. Learning outcomes. At the end of the lesson, you would be able to import data from other Excel data files, describe different items in variable view panel. Importing and exporting data. To load in data when you first start SPSS, you can select the file in one of the lower boxes of the into screen. At any other time, you can load the data from the file menu by selecting open data. I explained these things in lesson 1 also. If you are open the SPSS, at the beginning you can see this window. If you didn't click here, don't show this dialog in future, so you can see every time this dialog box is appear. So if you need, then you can select U option from this dialog box, or otherwise if you need to import data, as I explained in the previous lesson, you can go to the open menu and import the data. This opens the open file box. You know that how to open the files. You can go for the location and then you can open this, right? Yeah, the file types is Excel, SAV, so you know that, you know these things. Then you can import the file from your location to the SPSS. Basic rule to allow Excel data to be read into SPSS. These things I didn't discuss in the first lesson, because in the first lesson we import only the entered data set. Now I am explaining how to enter the data into the Excel file in readable manner in SPSS. So you are going to enter the data into the Excel file, then you are going to import that file into the SPSS, right? These are the basic rules to allow the Excel data to be read in the SPSS. The following rules apply to reading Excel 95 later files. Data type width and width. Each column is a variable. So if you add in the if we need to add the data in the column wise, if we add one column to the one data into the one column, that is one variable. The data type and width for the each variable are determined by the data type width in the Excel file. So you know that in the Excel file also you can define the width, so that width is taken to the SPSS file. In the column contains more than one data type, for example date and numeric, the data type is set to string and all values are read as valid string values. So you can understand this, if one column includes more than one data type, so it is considered as string values. Blank cells. For the if there are blank cells in your Excel file, so if they are numerical variables, that blank cell is converted to the missing value in the SPSS file. If that blank cell is for string variable, it is blank is also taken as valid string value, right? So you have to remember those things. So if it is numeric value, SPSS read as a missing value. If it is a string value, that is a blank cell is there, that is also read as string value. So variable names, you in the Excel file, if you are in the first row, you are adding the names of the columns, that is taken as variable names in the SPSS, right? So if you do not read the variable names from the Excel file, default variable names are assigned. It means you know that you so that in the XPSS variable 1, variable 2 as like this variable names are assigned. If you didn't enter the variables names in Excel, default name are get taken from the SPSS. If you enter in numbers such as weight, make sure all the values are numbers. Remove those things, you have to remove those things. All the values should be numbers. if the value is missing, either code with a missing value such as 9 or 99, or leave with entering anything, right? So if there is a missing value, so you can enter the missing value, right? I will explain later how you can enter the missing values in SPSS, so you can leave without entering anything. So I think it is better to enter the missing values, because you know that these SPSS are taken for the data analysis part in a research. So you know that if you are going to do the further studies like MSc and the other things, you have to do a research. So if you are doing the research, so you have to analyze the data. For that purpose, definitely you need the SPSS. Therefore, you have to remember those things very carefully. You have to understand those things, rather you are going to face the examination and pass the examination. These things are very important. So try to understand all the things, because when you are going to the field and doing the research, for each and every time we can't get all the observations from the field. Sometimes we have to keep the missing values, but with the missing values it is difficult to do the interpretations. So therefore we are computation the random numbers for the missing values. For that purpose, Excel has inbuilt function, I will explain later, missing values. So if there are some missing values in Excel sheet, so you can use the missing values in SPSS, right? So I'll explain how to do that in the next slides. So keep in your mind, if there are missing values, so if it is a if the variable is numeric, that is taken as missing value. If there is a blank cell in with the strings, that is also taken as string. Do not enter space or full stop. If you enter space or full stop, that is taken as string, right? So therefore do not enter space or full stop. If you enter in the text such as yes or no, check that you have always split this same way, that is y is seen as SPS different from y. It means that SPS is case sensitive. So if you are entering a capital Y, a simple y, that is taken different meaning. So you can use different from y, yes like this way, then yes like this way, and yes like that. These three has different meanings. So make sure that when you are entering the data into the SPSS file, always use same format, right? Otherwise that is taken as different values. Do not sort data without taking steps to ensure that all the data is sorted together, right? If you don't sort without ensuring all the data is data entered, right? Avoid putting totals, means counts or graphs on the same spreadsheet, right? Next slide shows a setup presented in Excel worksheet. So this is the Excel worksheet. So there is a question: can you convert this into a usable SPSS data set? So you can enter those data and try. This can be entered to the usable data set. I think you can see that. Then I explained you don't use these yes no like this. There are several types of yes no written in several ways. So that is these things are SPSS taken from different ways. You can try this and see whether it is working or not. Think about how do you need to alter the structure and content of the data using the rules mentioned. The data set that you produce should look something like this. So that this is I think valid data structure. The previous structure is not valid, but we have to try this and see what happened in the SPSS. You can identify the differences because there are some rules, then that data sheet not in the according to the rules, right? This is okay, no? So these things are in according to the given rules. So yes and no are written in same way, right? Therefore this can be entered into the this can be imported into the SPSS file, but make sure that when you are entering data, right, like this, if it is a date, so if we can type date like this way, no, but when you are importing this into the Excel file, that is taken as string value, because then if you say there are numbers and hyphens also, right? If we are taking these things into the Excel SPSS file, that is taken as string. To avoid this, what you have to do, you can go to the format cells, right? Then you can see, there are some dates, right? The general, number, currency, account, date, time, percentage, fraction, scientific, text, special, custom. So you, in that case, this is a date, right? So you have to select the variable date, right? If you select this, then only SPSS taken this as date, otherwise it is taken as string. So therefore, when we are entering data into the Excel file, make sure that with when you are entering, specify the specify the variables, right? Not entering only the numbers. So you have to specify the variables. That variables are taken into the SPSS, right? This has been achieved using copy paste special command in Excel. Transpose, you know that how to do the operations in SPSS. You can copy all these, right? A problem with two sections, 1 2 recorded, right? In this case, right here, 1 and 2, then day 1 and 2 is recorded, is there. 1 is taken for Thursday and 2 is taken for the Friday. You know that how you can enter those things into the SPSS. After importing this for the SPSS, then you have to define what is one using so I explained it, like if we entered male and female in the previous lesson. I explained those things in this lesson also. If you have to understand some more, you can understand in this lesson also, right? 1 is for the Thursday, 2 is for the Friday, right? There is still one problem of data point which was labeled less than 10, because less than 10 is not a number in SPSS while analyzed. So you I think you saw that here in the previous one. Here there is a less than 10, no? So you can see this is not a number in SPSS. So you have to avoid those things. To overcome this problem, you can assign some specific value that is less than 10. These things you can do in Excel files, right? Example data set. Imagine that you interviewed some people on their smoking habits using the questions shown below, right? So you can see this is a part of a questionnaire. So when we are doing the researches, you can use several methods such as interviews, then participant observations, and there are many more methods. Then questionnaire is one method, right? So when you can see that then there are some questions and there are some answers. So but how to analyze those things? These are, I think you can see these are the words rather than numbers. So in SPSS it is difficult to do the analysis using words. Then what you have to do, you have to convert these words into the meaningful numbers. You know that how to do that, these things. Then so in this is the questionnaire. So then next slide is given, this is the questionnaire. From the 10 completed questionnaires, it is possible to create data set like one shown is the next slide. By this questionnaire, this data set is created. So you know that you can see there, this is the reference number in data set. Reference number is given there, then age, sex, smoke 6, how many, pipe, cigars, give up, tax, health, cinema, date survey, date submit. These are the variables, and these are the missing values, no? Smoke 6. So these are, this is the number. So if you are taken these missing value, so the SPS is consider this as a missing value. So if there is words, it means sentences or words. These missing values is also taken as strings, no? So I explained those that several times. So I think this one 6, you know that how to enter those data into the SPSS, and in the next slides one by one explained how to enter those things correctly into the SPSS data sheet. This data set has 10 observations from reference number 1 to 10. You can see, no, reference number 1 to 10, there are 10 observations with some missing values. 14 variables, these are variables. All the information about the single person makes up one observation. Note that blank indicate missing values. From this dataset you can see the reference number of the first subject 1, she is 27 and is female, right? So here reference number 1, he is age of 27 and female. She smokes cigarettes on average 10 per day. She doesn't smoke a pipe or cigarette, has tried to give up. So here this information, right, this information in the first, you can see in the first row, that is further describing. She agrees the tax on tobacco is too much high, that smoking is dangerous to your health, and that smoking should be banned from cinemas. And before entering these data into the SPSS worksheet, let's consider how variables are defined and what attributes they can have. Each variable needs to be given variable name that is used in describing the variable to the SPSS. Table below lists the names of that to be used in the examples specified in order to they are to be given to SPSS. It also suggests suitable labels that you can later be associated with variables to clarify output. So these are the 14 variables, and these are the labels. You know that how to labels. I 1 or 2 I entered to a SPSS datasheet and show you. Right, this is the variable view. So first variable is reference number, then age, no, right, reference number. So label we can put that as reference number, right? You can enter like this, age, what else, age, last birthday, that is the label, no, label is here, age, last birthday. Third one, sex of respondent, sex, that is the variable name. Then we can enter that as sex of respondent. Then I will enter another one, which one, smoker, how many cigarettes per day, date of survey, right, because that is a different data type, date of survey. Date of survey, right, that is not numeric, no, I will explain later. So type of data, then date of the survey was complete. So label date of the survey was completed, right. Likewise you can enter the data to SPSS. So you can define the variables in SPSS. Okay, right, then you should now have all information necessary to start the creating example data sheet in SPSS. First you will use the variable view of data editor window, specify the variable names and their attributes. Right, now I entered the some variable names into the SPSS in variable view. How do you enter above data into SPSS worksheet? Point and click the cells 1 row 1 column. Now I'll show you. Then reference number into a cell. Use the down arrow, move to the 2 1 column, right? Type age in cell, right? Likewise we can enter the 14 variables names, right? Then for the first column, like after entering the variables, you can see like this way, right? You can enter the variables, all the 14 variables names into the first column, right? That is the first thing you have to do, right? Sex, where you have the collected data in the form of female and male, right? So age, where would be like SPS recording as a date. Okay, to enter male and female, change the variable type into point and click cell, type variable name sex, right? So you know that that is string, no, right? So we can do those things. So we can go to the another variable, we can sex, and we can change this into the string, and we have to enter only one string here, no, because male or female, right? I can then here one, then you know that we can use values. We'll see how they used here. No, here only we are assigning the variables, right? So we will then here date, what is the type? That is date, no, date. So I can enter a date type for there, right? These are the date variables. Likewise, you can define the variable type. Choose date from these, right? Okay, choose preferred data format shown in the right of the box, but the top option is DDMMMYY, so probably safest option. So you can use any options for the date, variable width and decimal places. The next column is headed with deal with the maximum number of characters that would be displayed for the particular variable in output relating to this variable. So this is not related for the data view. If you specified the number of characters, then that number of characters displayed in the output window, right? So for example, dataset would be better to choose with 1 decimal, with 1 decimal 0 for the smoker 6 pipe. Likewise, we'll see. Then here decimal, here what is given, decimal with 1 decimal 0, right? Width is 1 here, right? So we can select width is 1 decimal 0, because for reference number no decimals, no, right? Right. Likewise, you can say then variable age, no decimal, so you can use number of decimals are 0. For the numeric, you can select the number of decimals and also the width for age. So maximum we have to use 3, no. So likewise, you can specify the width also, right? Then now you can see this slide. So starting in the first row, fourth column, right? Likewise, you can enter. Then after specifying these data types, the reference number, that is numeric one, age, sex, those are no, sorry, sex is not a numeric one, that should be changed as right. Here only number of decimal places you can see. With this you can see in there. Move third column, change into the value to 2, right? Repeat this process to all variable types. Variable labels, you know that how to label the variables. Maximum length of the label is 255 characters. I explained that in first lesson also. Moving the first row, fifth column, right? Reference number here, age. So this is the way of entering the labels I showed you. Value labels for each variable is appropriate. These in the value column, right? Sex, male and female, right? This is the way of entering male and female, no? So this is the sex, so you can go to value, you know that you did those things in value is m, that is male, no, value is f, that is female, then you can add this, no, right? That thing is explained there. Yes, right, this one, you know that. Then enter value 2 for the label number and click add, click OK. The variable 6 pipes cigars give ups all need the same value labels as a smoker, right? Each can be repeated above. The procedure for each variable. In turn, apply the useful shortcut. Click cell on contains value smoker. So you know that how to copy and paste. Control C for copy and Control V for paste, right? Repeat this process for pipe cigars give up for the values, right? Finally, the variables tax, danger and cinema zoo will be need to provide 4 values for the labels for each. Use basic method to enter the information for the variable tax. Value 1 is then here that some values, right? For the tax, value 1 is strongly disagree, value 2 is for the disagree, and agree and strongly agree. So how you can enter those kind of data? You have to go for the values. You have to assign the values such as you are using in male and female, no? So you have to enter the values, then you have to enter the meaning of the values into the values under values column, right? You can define those things because now you have a clear understanding about that. Then missing values, this is a new thing because other things we discussed in previous lesson also, but now I descriptively describe the purpose of these variables. Now you have, I think now you can understand clearly than the first lesson, right? Then this is the missing value. In the statistical analysis of any data set, it is sometimes necessary to exclude the cases where information not known or not appropriate, right? If there are no sufficient information, sometimes we have to remove the data, so right. But if the collected data is not enough, we can't remove each and everything. Sometimes some questions asked by for some questions answered by some people, for the other questions answered by the another set of people. In that cases we can't reject the answers. Then what we have to do, we have to find the find the way to find the missing values. So that that option is given in the SPSS, right? In this example for interview reference number 8, the respondent failed to give answer for this question, right? If you respondent 8, this one, how many, he is failed to answer the question. 999 is the computed missing value. That here, then you can see 9th one, here there is a missing value. In that case what you have to do, right? Suppose you have a missing value, then what you have to do, I am taking this one. Suppose here there is a missing value, right? There is a missing value in this column, right? 6 column. What you have to do, sorry, missing values in age column, right? Then what you have to do, go for the age column, then there is a missing values, right? Go to the missing value, then discrete missing value, you can type 999, then press OK, right? Then what happen if there is a missing value, right? So it is replaced with 999, right? Okay, so these things you can use to avoid that the situation which I explained earlier, if there is a missing values. Notice that we value 999 now appears in the missing column for the variable, right? You can see when you are doing that. Measurement of scale of variables. Final column is concerned with the measurement of scale of the property of the variable. In statistics, certain procedures they are only appropriate for the variables measured on the specific scales of measurement. The measurement characteristics recognized by the SPS as follows. So you know that there are some scales, right? There are 4 scales: nominal, ordinal, and interval and ratio. But in SPSS there are that interval and ratio scales taken into the one scale, like that is called as scale, I think you have idea about these scales because you did those things in introduction to statistics in the first semester. So these scales we need to add for the SPSS, right? You know that what is nominal scale. Nominal scales, the variable can be treated nominal when it is values represent categories with no intrinsic ranking. There is no ranking, I think, just as the categories names. So we can use the nominal variable. For example, we can see the department of the company in which an employee works, like a education department, right? That is a name, right? That's a nominal variable. Religion and zip code and religious affiliation, these are the nominal variables. Then ordinal scales, a variable can be treated as ordinal when its values represented categories with same intrinsic ranking, right? So for example, these are the ordinal scale, right? Ordinal scales are ranking, right? The department, sorry, not this one. A variable can be treated as one with its value represent categories with same intrinsic ranking. So for example, levels of service stratification of highly dissatisfied or to highly satisfied. As an example, I told you that strongly agree, strongly disagree, these are the rankings, no? So these are the ordinal scales measurements. Attitude scores represent the degree of satisfaction or confidence and preference rating scores, right? Scale are interval and ratio scales, right? A variable can be treated as a scale means values represent ordered categories with a meaningful metric. So then distance comparisons between values are appropriate. Examples of scale variables includes age in years and income thousands of dollars. Likewise, these are the ratio scales and interval scale. Under those things you can as categorized to the scale measurements. You should be able to recognize that in the examples there data are. So then this is a given example, there are 6 nominal measures. You have to identify those things according to the nature of the variable. Then here, what are the nominal measures in our example? Sex, smoker, 6, pipe, cigars and give up. Those are the nominal variables. And there are the 3 ordinal measures. These are tax, danger and cinemas, because there are some ranking with involved with these variables. Final 3 scale measures: reference number, age, number of 6, reference right? Okay, so reference number can be nominal, ordinal or scale. Why? Because that is a number, no? So you can use any of you like. So if you taken this into the nominal scales, it can't be used for the analysis part because if it is a scale, that is not taken as a number, no? So I think it is better to take as ordinal or scale measurement, because if you need to do some analysis part, you can use those reference numbers. And to date variables which are considered by SPS to be scale variables and can be used, such as starting with reference number 01 and column 10, click on cell appropriate measures. You should have to change this from the default. Move down, so choose first change the variable smoke, and this is the way of you are changing these variables. So you know that you can use the arrow keys and go to the appropriate page, then double clicking on it, then you can change those values. Your variables view plane should look like figure in next slide. That is the final outcome of your our example. So after entering all the things, you have to get I didn't explain how to change the measures, no? And in the SPSS you can see, then here, no, yeah, that is measure you can use. Then these are the, no, if scale, ordinal, nominal measures you can change in this tab, right? That's the place. Okay, then finally you can see this type of output in the variable view. After that, if you are define all the variables in correct manner, right, here reference number, then that type is numeric, width is 4, there are no decimal places, 0, then this is the label, reference number, then none values, right? Then missing values no, right? Columns 8, right? Then align is right, then these are the measures. So here if there is a values, you can see F for female. Likewise you can enter these 14 variables into define the 14 variables in the variable bin. Finally you can go to the data view and you can enter the data in correct manner, right? I think that's all for you about this lesson. I think now you have a clear understanding about this lesson, because you did some of the parts in lesson 1 also, and here I am thoroughly focused about the how to define the variables, how you can choose the correct variable type, and how you can enter the data using the correct variable type in both Excel and SPSS. If you are entering the data into this Excel also, remember that if you are entering date or some other variables, specify those variable in Excel as date. Otherwise if you are importing those things into the SPSS, it is not taken as date, right? Keep that is also in mind. If you have any problem, you can contact me anytime. Based on this lesson also you have a small tutorial, right? It is not a very much very complex one, that is very easy one. So you can, if you once you follow this video or the even lecture note, you can do that. Okay, right? Thank you very much then.